Everybody, welcome back to another meeting. Man, last week's was freaking awesome. We have a new leader for development team. We'll re-announce that all to make sure everything's kosher and still on the level and up to going and blah, 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 blah. It was a great meeting. It went way over last week, and I feel it was very poignant to do that. So I'm very anxious to jump in tonight to see what the development team's got, or our team has got. I've gotten, I think, 4 to 5 different character classes that I want to explore myself. So without further ado, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, he is my handler tonight, and here's Derek here. This is our meeting room. We'll put the door here because Derek never sits to his back to the door. Our fireplace, our pole dancer, and the rock and sock and robot. This is reserved for naughty people. I'm going to put this as a bat cage. So whoever is naughty and does something stupid tonight, that cage is for you. Does that sound good to you, Mr. Nelson?
Yeah.
Hold on, we need to have a weapons rack. Weapons. Okay. There's a layout of our room. Let's try to bring everybody in at once.
Incoming.
Roger that.
Hello.
Hello, who's this?
It is Iron Soul.
Hello, Mr. Iron. What's up, baby? All the way from Australia. I hope I said that right. Australia.
Australia, mate.
I tried out drinking Australia once. I didn't do it. Didn't quite succeed.
Some of that there Australian beer.
Aye, mother's milk, as they say. All right, who was that talking about the nasty Australians here, besides Iron Soul? Who's that?
No. I said drinking some of that Australian beer.
Oh. Is Foster's popular down there?
No. I think we're the only ones who think Foster's is cool.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, look at me, I'm an Australian, I want Foster's beer. All right, who's here? I got Derek, Iron Soul. Who else?
Captain Ron is here.
Nitro.
Wolf.
Hold on.
Jizba's here.
Mr. J. Who else?
Surreal.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Very nice of you to make it tonight. Who else is among us?
Some kind of horrible feedback loop.
Yes. Is Steve Curtis here
We
tonight?
have a guitar amplifier here today. Oh, never mind.
Does Steve Curtis make it here tonight?
He was on BuzzNet, but
He's here. He just
Chat.
doesn't seem like he's talking.
Sit the two dorks up here in the front of the table. Stevie C! Anybody else? So I got Stevie C, I got Derek Iron Soul, Captain Ron, Nitro, Hungry Like a Wolf, Mr. J, Jizba, and Mr. Surreal. Did I leave anybody out?
he left NATO off, for one thing.
I think so.
NATO.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
going to end up in the muddy corner.
Naughty chicky monkey. All right,
Here as
hey,
well.
NATO and Nitro.
yeah, that's what I think.
That's what I... NATO. Nitro. Brilliant. Wow, we have a really big-ass round table here tonight. So, Mr. Nitro, how was your week? What were you been thinking about? I've been reading some posts. I kind of posted in there saying I was proud of everybody and honored definitely to be here. Is everybody caught up, or do you want to do some highlights of what you've been thinking about so far?
Me or NATO?
I think Derek is getting confused with names.
I am getting confused, damn it. You both are not from North Carolina, and...
I'm Ryan.
All right,
Chris.
Ryan. Ryan is who?
Nitro.
Bollocks. And NATO is Bruce?
Chris.
Fuck. Fuck, Jimmy.
What was that, Derek? Do you need a
Nothing. I was
timeout
under my...
now?
The... Derek
I
is
can't
not...
believe this. He's going to sit here and call you out.
First one in the naughty cage.
I'm in the naughty cage. I have to follow my own rules. All right. Mr. Ryan, would you like to discuss what you've been working on?
We've been going over a lot of sort of high-level discussions and stuff in the forums. I haven't had a lot of time this week, so didn't really get much done myself, but I was involved in a lot of the discussions. Yeah, I'm sort of interested to hear what Nada has first to say, probably.
Mr. Chris.
Yeah, this has been a bit of a slow week. It's kind of taken me some time to get things on paper. One of the first things I wanted to do was kind of discuss the MOBA model, which is something which has inspired my kind of mindset. There's a big post on the forums covering that, so I won't go over it all at the moment. But essentially it's come down to what aspects of the MOBA style do we want to implement and what do we want to change. I am working on a sort of stage 1 design document, but it's a sort of long process, so hopefully I should have something next week or the week after that's a lot more formal.
All right.
Did you have a chance to read my response to your MOBA document?
I'm currently
What were your thoughts on that, basically?
find my own post. Today's been a long day, so I'm not exactly entirely with it. There it is, right. Give me a sec to read this so someone else can talk for a minute.
All right, Mr. Ironsoul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine.
You're leading because I'm in the naughty chair, the naughty cage. So talk to me. What you been working on, my friend?
Alright, so I've been working mainly on general team and organization aspects because I really think we should get those nailed down so that we can say, okay,
on.
this is how
Who
good the
concurs?
project's going.
I concur. Go ahead. Sorry, I won't interrupt again.
So I've been trying to make threads on the forums, and my hope was that we do a whole heap of discussion on the forum, and then we come to conclusions in the meetings. We make that official decisions in the meetings. That's not exactly going to happen this week. Oh, there are some people home. I got a AFK, so someone else can talk.
All right, Captain Ron, you're up, baby.
All right, can you hear me?
I sure can, yes, sir.
All right, awesome. I've been taking into consideration this whole steampunk idea, so I've been trying to work on a couple of models. I guess I'll go ahead and run this idea by everybody. I thought
Okay.
it was kind of funny and interesting. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking from the 1800s
Okay, I'm back.
weapons. So like swords and so basically one of my main ideas is semi-automatic muzzle loading flintlock. A semi-automatic flintlock, if everybody can kind of stay with me here. A front loader, you know, the old gun from the Civil War, and you sit there and
Powder.
Right, but I was going to add a clip to it. I was basically going to take what was old, modernize it, but still keep with that whole steampunk fashion. And I kind of think that, you know, the Navy Colts that the cowboys used with all that craziness of etching that they had on there. Of course, all that could be done with a texture, but I mean, for the most part, I would kind of like to go through and model out some of these weapons and see how I could kind of steampunk them myself. I'm kind of building from cowboys, pirates, and the period of the 1800s. I have some pictures.
I
Okay.
may have a pistol shotgun I have been drawing for this week that you might like.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll save that for the art side, but for the technical side, I'm not sure who can answer this just yet. I know Steve threw out a polygon count for characters, but for accessories, for weapons. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because I know like in Unreal, all we did was model one side of the weapon, and the other side, I mean, was hollow. You didn't need to see it, so we didn't use the polygon count. But with depending on the game and how we're playing it, we're going to probably have to have both sides because they're moving around a lot. Anybody's thoughts?
I'd rather not set a arbitrary number, but for things like weapons or general accessories, as a rough guess, I would say 200 polygons.
It depends a lot on the graphical style we go for. In addition, it depends on whether or not characters have fixed weapons that they're holding, or whether their weapons change dependent on what they've kind of been equipped with.
But see, that's kind of why I brought up the whole point about view stance, whether it's first person, second man, or third person. Kind of really does define what we are allowed to have inside the editor and how we're able to use it. Can we duck? Can we roll? Can we jump? Can we run?
I know from Buzz's point of view, he wants a third-person game.
Mm.
Third person would probably be a lower poly for the weapons and pretty higher poly for the characters.
Right.
So the models aren't really needed too much, are they?
Oh no, a third person is like World of Warcraft. You're going to be able to, and all I can say is from the last system they worked on, you were able to pan the camera around, roll the camera back. You can see your character run around, or you can make it first person as well.
I would be stumping for a very loose third-person camera, so something like World of Warcraft, but I wouldn't add a first-person perspective.
So then it is.
I would have it pulled back.
It is second person
Explain second person, because I've not really heard that as a conceptual camera system.
I don't think it exists.
No, I don't think it exists.
Maybe top down or side down is what you're thinking of.
Are you thinking more like, remember the old game Gauntlet where you had a camera up top and you only see like a three-quarter view of the person running around?
You can have a very close fixed third-person camera, like in something like Gears of War, where the camera is like right behind someone's shoulder. Is that what you're thinking about? Because that's not personally what I was going for.
That'd be over-the-shoulder third person.
Yeah. The point with the camera system is that if we're going away from like a top-down view, which is like the traditional MOBA style, and going with a third-person camera, you kind of need to be able to wheel the camera around the character so that you can look behind you, look sort of down lanes, and have a lot more vision than you would with a fixed camera, either that's first-person or third-person. So
yeah, I'd really like to be able to have the control to look around and see what's going on.
Yeah,
I love having the full control over my life or my death. I don't like the whole let's take turns and
Isn't WoW considered a third person?
Yeah, it is.
See, I would call that second person, not third. Third.
Well, how would you define third person?
Because third is God view. It's top down.
That's
second man, and then you have second person.
Not to correct you, but that's not the standard terms used, really.
Yeah, I think we should get an official definition of third person. Yeah,
third person is actually the World of Warcraft.
I have magazines here that tell me otherwise.
Most of my game books say third person is the World of Warcraft view, and the top-down view is called isometric.
No,
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
Steve.
thank
I don't know
jeez.
who you are.
Thank you, Nelson.
Sorry.
Okay, but I agree. We need to have standardized terminology. The one thing I've learned in the government, one agency calls X something, and another agency calls X something else, and gets things all convoluted and screwed up. So I propose, I'm throwing on the table, third person now will be considered Warcraft, World of Warcraft. First person to me is more like a
First person
Battlefield
shooter.
3, yeah, first-person shooter game. The isometric or God version is this top-down. Oh! Can we concur?
Which is like a standard model for an RTS as a
Right.
top-down
Yes.
camera.
Yeah, I'm all good with that.
Okay.
If you want to see
Can't
like
you make WoW something?
say again?
Can't you make WoW a top-down?
Well, you can if you decide to kind of angle the camera down onto the character and zoom out, yeah.
How
The WoW
about
camera's really, really flexible.
about the definition of third person? It's a camera that is outside of the camera, but he's always looking at the character, and he's always following the character.
Hold on.
Because a top-down doesn't necessarily have to follow the character.
I agree with that because even in like
It'll do fair.
what's the word? The game Guild Wars, the camera does the same thing. Tell you what really turned me off of crap. What's it called? Fallout Vegas. The camera system. I like the camera system, but I couldn't turn it around to see what my character looked like. I'm like, what the crap? I can't turn it. That made me mad.
What I'm actually thinking of proposing is that there is somewhere on the website a Unity-based third-person camera, which I can't remember if that was done for the MMO or not.
Yeah, it was a standalone project, I think. They did it for the platformer.
But if you look at the way that works, that is basically what I was thinking.
Especially now it's already been made. I mean, how hard would it be to take that code and all that that's already been implemented and then plug it into the game?
Well, Nelson probably will want to take everything, modify it, and make it his own code, but the effective working principle, yes.
Well, that's what I meant. Nelson's going to kill me.
Do you have any idea how... never mind.
No, I don't.
Finish your sentence.
Say it.
No, let's just leave it at the concepts are good. The implementation is not a simple drop-in to anything.
Well, what Steve was telling me is that code is easy, and then any code monkey can do this in like 20 minutes. Is Steve wrong?
Well, then Steve can do it.
Nelson knows Steve better than that and should kick Derek in the balls the next time he sees him.
Hey now, I resemble that remark.
Well,
okay,
but anyway.
We're all in agreement then. Third person is the standard WoW field.
Yep.
First person is the shooting for a shooter, and asymmetric or God version is just top down. Okay, moving on from that. Go ahead. Mr. Chris, you were saying?
What was I saying before we had that discussion? Oh yeah, replying to that MOBA thread. Yeah, the main issue next to deal with, from kind of my point of view, is working on how a character develops from between matches. I mean, I've seen a lot of people posting saying that they don't like the idea of characters advancing in a match. Which there's an argument to be made about keeping keeping gameplay replayable. Sorry, if you have a character progression within each match, it allows you to modify that character progression, make more choices, which is really at the heart of kind of game design, is giving the player the option to make interesting choices throughout their gameplay and change that. I am very much for a character progression system outside of matches, but it would be much more focusing on kind of developing a character speciality rather than giving them more power. The example being is you might want to start with a mage character. Once you gain a few levels, for want of a better word, you can become a fire mage, and then that fire mage can specialize in area of effect spells.
I like that idea.
Can I just jump in there? So how would that then roll back into the MOBA PvP style game?
The specialization
in it, I guess.
Well, a mage would start with a set of abilities. When you specialize, those abilities would change and would take on an effect based on what you're specialized in. How that would work, I'm not sure. There's a lot of room for kind of in-detailed design in that section. But the idea is that your abilities would change based on your speciality. So it would make your character more kind of specialized to do a particular role, but starting from a point where you can make pretty much any choice based on that character. So a mage could be like a very damaging character or a support character.
I just think that we need to make sure that the PvP combat isn't like a completely separate game to the PvE combat.
I'm currently not looking at the PvE at all, but in what I would be keeping in mind is
design towards.
what I would be keeping in mind is that I would want to keep the system the same, and I would be more focused on designing the PvE to match the PvP. So it would all be based on using the same abilities in a similar but not the same environment. So effectively it would be taking out the other team and designing a map to fit whatever theme you were going for.
It kind of sounds like you want to take Battlegrounds from World of Warcraft as like the game and have character progression like World of Warcraft with skill trees instead of a more traditional MOBA like whatever any of them are.
It's kind of similar to that, yeah. It's a similar concept.
I know one game, it was called Forge, I think, pretty much done that. They've got like an arena style game like Battlegrounds, and you can progress your character through skill trees and I believe equipment.
Okay.
But we'll do it better if we agree on that.
I'm just having a look at it. Is this the one that is...
Can you go ahead and take his screen, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson? So we can
Nados?
kind of all look at... Yes. If you don't mind, kind of all look at it at the same time.
Should be free to play and it's on Steam.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, okay, I lost audio for a second there. Yeah, I was wondering if it was the one that's based... There's one game which is based
Yep, that
heavily
one's it.
on mythology, not Norse mythology, Greek mythology, which looked interesting.
That one's pretty much, like I was saying, you get an arena, and it's got the MMO level system, but you're in the MOBA match system. But you get a third-person view, you run around casting spells or whatever.
They have a game that's similar to that right now called Smite, where it's basically a MOBA but third person.
I've also seen a similar model done for the Dungeon Defenders 2, little extra mini MOBA game that sits on top of their stuff.
Yep.
With a very powerful third-person camera.
Yeah, I've noticed most of these games, they're kind of getting away from the MOBAs and going toward like Forge, third-person, MMO-style character development.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting area, which is kind of why I've been wanting to do it. And I think it can deliver well on a world rather than on a kind of a... Because the thing about League of Legends and Dota is that they're very game-heavy in the sense that it's all about the strategy, it's all about the character choices, it's all about the metagame, and you kind of lose the lore a lot. I know this particular group really likes the lore side of things. So like pulling back on the big heavy game aspects was something I've been kind of focusing towards, making it more light, making it more kind of one of the problems with a lot of MMOs these days is that players kind of want to exist in a world. They want to have a character that exists in the world and then do activities in the world, but no one really knows what kind of activities to provide to players. You know, kind of originally it was always quests and dungeons and raids and whatnot, but that kind of thing is very content heavy, it's very developer heavy. It kind of demands a huge team like kind of Blizzard have access to.
Let's stop here just for a minute and let's everyone come up with one idea in this confines that we're talking about. What would make this game fun without having this big ass team? Something that could actually happen and we could do.
An M4.
I've got an idea for that.
Okay, go for it.
So something I picked up when I was watching stuff on EverQuest Next was rather than having a vertical progression, which is like a huge skill tree, you do a horizontal progression, which is instead of getting abilities by like leveling up your character, you get abilities by going into the world and finding something new that'll give you this new set of abilities. So instead of going out in the world and like leveling up your character, you go out and find like a mage and he teaches you like a new spell or something like that. So that your level progression isn't making your character stronger, it's making your character have a broader base of abilities that he can draw from. And if you do it that way, it's really easy to add content to the game just by creating a new ability and adding it in. And it also encourages players to like learn the lore about why they're using that ability too.
And it keeps them out
It
in
does.
the world, too.
Yeah, the problem is that we don't necessarily have a world for people to get out into yet, in the sense that that's the problem. We can't create a big massive world for people to get out into.
We can't do it, but
But
if we're doing like early alpha thing, what we can do is start small with the abilities. The advantage of the abilities is you make a few that are just like the core that people start with, and we could start just by creating some core abilities for a few classes that we'd start people out with. Make sure the mechanics work well, and explain the lore behind that in the smaller game we're making to start with. And then we could use that as a base to expand later on.
There's a big thing I want us to be able to keep in mind.
So you'd have...
Go ahead. Okay, I'll jump
I was
back
just
in.
going to say, so you'd... a lot of the skill trees will... sorry. A lot of the skill trees would sort of affect your abilities as well. So how would you do that? You would have basically trained or find items in the world, would you?
There wouldn't be skill trees. Basically your items would give you abilities too. You wouldn't like say have a skill tree. You would put on a suit of armor and it'd give you a new set of abilities. Like you could use like a shield block if you got a shield. If you could, you picked up a pistol, you'd be able to like have a couple different ways you could shoot it as abilities. So everything, you wouldn't have auto attacks. You'd have castable abilities. You might have like a passive.
How do you go about improving those abilities?
You wouldn't. You just give players more abilities. You'd give them like higher base stats, but the game wouldn't be about leveling up in terms of making your abilities more powerful. It'd be finding the perfect combination of abilities for your character. So
Okay, but what about KDR?
What was that? What about what?
Kill to death ratio.
Kill to death ratio? That would come down to balancing abilities. It would basically let players like pick a playstyle that they're best at playing. So it would be when it's my turn, I've got like drawings and stuff that'll explain how it works, and I was going to go through my older post about how to balance out just a broad set of abilities so you'd get counter moves, stuff like that, and so you could balance stuff out so people could basically counter somebody else while having a less powerful build against them, if that makes sense.
I don't think it's a good idea to just flood the user with like a huge number of abilities though.
Here's the thing,
try
people
to focus on a core number.
I agree, and here's why. Speaking from my psychological standpoint, my psychology, people under the belief they like to have lots of choices, but you present them more than 3 choices, and they get all mixed up. That's like if you offered somebody either vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream. It's much easier to pick between the two than going into Baskin Robbins, and you have a zillion different choices, and then you kind of have like buyer's remorse. Well, I got the cookies and cream, but I kind of wanted the chocolate. I really wanted the Superman. And we're not geared that way in reality. I think 3 to 4 choices would be more than prevalent or more than enough.
Yeah, WoW's a good example of that.
To some extent, but if you're looking at MOBA combat, you literally have, by picking characters, you have hundreds of character choices to play. You're not going to play all of them. You're going to pick the ones you like. And it seems to work out pretty well. I mean, you might have the buyer's remorse to some extent, but you have the ability to change relatively easily.
Yeah, but isn't building on a character kind of cool, though? I mean, starting with a character that you created or whatever, and then going out into the world and saying, okay, I'm going to make this a BAB, you know?
Yeah, it is kind of cool, but it also leads to some of the biggest problems in MMOs, like power creep and other stuff like that. Just because you have to keep upping the stats on items and stuff and making the abilities just that much more powerful to the point that eventually the game's just
but having
it gets out of control.
progression doesn't mean that you can't have... Sorry. If you want to avoid power creep, but you still want to have a character progression, you change the character progression. You make it more about specialization instead of making it about increasing a character's abilities.
I could see that to some extent, but by giving people more abilities, that's basically doing exactly what you're saying, by letting them specialize more.
But you're not giving them more abilities. You are coloring their abilities. You are changing how they work. Like, for example, if you had a I'll go back to the mage example. You had a mage that had a magic missile ability. If you upgraded that mage into an ice mage, that magic missile ability would then cause a slight stun on attack. They wouldn't then have two abilities. They would have one ability that has a flavor to it, which modifies how that ability works. Now that's just a kind of a small example.
Yeah, what I was thinking about would essentially do the same thing, it'd just be a different method of going about doing it. You'd only be able to equip so many of these abilities at any given time, and you'd have to make choices about which ones you'd have. But it'd be a choice between whether you wanted to have that frost magic missile or the new arcane magic missile that you just learned, or vice versa.
Okay, if you had a
Diablo 3,
yeah.
and the way they can swap abilities in and out.
And I was also thinking about doing weapons instead of having the weapons or items you'd equip giving you more stats. It would actually change your character's abilities. So instead of having you make yourself ridiculously statted out, you'd buy a new gun and it would give you a new set of abilities. And then you'd incentivize getting new gear also by making effectively skins for the gear, so you could go out and get the cooler skin that would make the gun you look better.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what I'm thinking of. For the sort of end product, I'd like to have a kind of a small crafting system which allows you to buy items that change how your items appear or give you a slight stat boost or a one-off special ability, or something like that. So it opens up the possibility of having a character who exists in the world, but doesn't actually play that side of the game, doesn't play the MOBA side. It's all about playing the economy and playing that kind of thing, so it opens up more options to players. But that's, again, something much later on.
And the other thing we could do, just to make it a little bit less messy, is to group the abilities together, so you could pick one character class at a time, and one gun at a time, and one set of armor at a time. And you only have so many abilities on each one, they'd come with a fixed set of 4 abilities that you might be able to change out with a crafting system or something. But by and large, you'd just be getting a set of 4 abilities, or you could pick this other set of 4 abilities later. I mean, it would be pretty similar to picking which tree you wanted to go down, but it'd let you customize more, and there'd be more you could find.
Can we have a happy medium? Because I agree with Iron Soul on BuzzNet. Crap, I just lost it. Not having an optimal build. I mean, I know that'd be tons more work, and I want to be realistic, but I want to make it my character as individual as I can.
The problem with not having, the problem with the concept of optimal builds is that you cannot effectively write them out, because in a MMO environment you are working in a system where people will spend time and work out what is statistically the best plan. What you can do is you can minimize that by having an active metagame, in the sense that what becomes the most powerful in the game is countered quite easily by something else, so that players who are getting beaten by the very powerful thing will start playing the characters using the abilities that counter that. That's one of the things that keeps League of Legends and Dota from kind of becoming single character games.
All right, so this is where quantitative decision making comes in.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really big word. Quantitative decision making. Steve and I worked for a guy on a card game, and all he did was, okay, this card can be this, and this, but it's not as powerful as that. It's balancing everything out basically drawing out a huge tree or flow graph chart to balance everything. And that's what you're talking about, systematically balancing things, where in progression you will become more and more powerful. And then, you're going to run into another guy just as powerful as you. It's kind of a race to see who has the most power, but at the end, everyone's pretty much the same powerful. My fireball does X, and so does this guy's, sword.
It's more about kind of going, okay, this character has an ability that if they hit me, they stun me. Well, okay, if that character is getting played a lot, I'll play a character that has a dodge ability, so you can't hit me. So you use your ability, you waste your ability to try and hit me, but I dodge out of the way, and then your stun ability is on cooldown, and I have a lot more effective power against you.
Gotcha. I can agree to that.
And I actually had a post up on the forums about how you balance stuff out. You basically give ability stats that would calculate the risk-reward factor for using it. So an ability that was riskier to use, like make you stand still for a really long time but did a lot of damage, would do a lot more damage than something that you'd just be able to pop around a corner and shoot really fast. That way you'd have to sort of think about what you're going to do to the other player and whether you could actually get it off, or plan how you would sneak up on someone to use the big evil death abilities, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Eviscerate. Have you guys ever been ganked by a bunch of thieves in World of Warcraft playing Battlegrounds? They all just meld from shadows at once from behind you, and one will stun, eviscerate, and then as this cooling down, you're still stunned. Somebody else will stun you as soon as you come out of it, and it's just, oh my god, it was awful.
No, that never happened to me. Mainly because I played a rogue.
I hated it so much.
I played a feral druid, and I was tanky as hell, so the rogues would come fight me and they couldn't kill me.
No time.
Anyway,
All right, guys, let's get back on topic. I know Iron wanted to finish talking about some stuff, and I know Chris really, at this point, I think, wants to be dealing a little more high level than this.
Okay.
So we're running out of time. So let's get Chris and Iron going and get back on topic.
Do you want to go, Ansel?
Iron Soul, you're
Who's
up.
first?
You are Iron.
Okay, what was I talking about before I suddenly disappeared?
Somebody came to the door?
Yep, okay. I was talking about what I wanted to talk about. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about teams, and I want to talk about how these live meetings mesh in with the forums. How I'm hoping it will work in the future is we do all of our nitty-gritty discussion on the forums, because then we can spend hours and hours and hours talking about that stuff. And then when we come into these meetings, we spend the time doing two major things. We clarify any points from the forums. If someone's like, I didn't really understand that, they can ask a question. We get that sorted out, and we make decisions on what we're going to do next. And that's it. We don't have any super high-level in-depth discussion in the live class. The reason for that is we just don't have the time to do it.
Right, I agree. Time management.
If we had a separate design class, one of the things I'd like to be able to do is have this kind of discussion and actually have it out in words, because it's you kind of, when talking with someone, the ideas kind of come together a lot more.
When typing, another problem that people have is misunderstanding. You'll say something, they'll completely misunderstand it. With a live one, you'd be able to say, wait, that's not what I meant.
Yeah, and tone as well,
But,
how about we do this? We set aside, every fourth meeting of the very last meeting of the month for nothing but development team, for 2 hours, just for that reason.
Okay. On the other one,
better than nothing.
Would we do the forum meeting combination?
Yeah, on the other ones, the other three, the forum meeting combination, like you said, the very last meeting of the month is where, we clarify everything once again and try to get into in-depth details. And worst case scenario, if there's a lot of chatter on the forums about, say, 4 different topics, what we do is Chris would say, okay, this is what these 2 topics that we're going to talk about. Yeah, we're going to talk about A, B, and C.
Solution with our time limit.
The other thing I
Anyway.
think we should be doing is possibly getting like a Skype account for everyone or something and talking to each other during the week.
I like that idea. When we first started this whole MMO thing, again, this is kind of built because Buzz, God bless him, he's like, okay, listen, just kind of hang out and draw and talk about some MMO stuff. And I'm like, well, that's great, but I really want to build this thing. And in the beginning, all my art leads, that's what we did for the first 2 to 3 weeks of class. We had to have meetings on Thursdays, or the day before we would have our class, so we knew what we were going to discuss. We could gauge what was being developed and made, and then boom, all the other people that aren't the leads would get in and get to ask questions. So I concur. I think that'd be a great idea to everyone share Skype information. We can do it on the forums if you want, or we can just type them in here and have a central database.
Yeah, we could put
The
the
only-
emails in the Dropbox.
The only problem with Skype is I don't think you can do like group conversations.
Yeah,
there
It's got
is-
like 30 people or something.
you have to pay
Yeah,
for
pretty
it.
big
That's-
number.
No, you can. It's easy. That's what we do with the radio show.
Oh,
It
is it
just
built
uses
in?
a ton of bandwidth.
One chat.
Anyway, that was
Okay.
the first thing I wanted to talk about, keeping these times short but still making the best of our time. The second thing is teams. I want to get some teams organized. I made a post on the forums about them. Did anyone actually read that?
Anybody?
What was that about? Sorry?
No, we
Alright,
need to
well,
agree to this too. At least twice a week, we need to visit the forums, everybody.
Well, actually, optimally, I'd say daily, but
I would like to have daily, but I'm just going to hold your feet to the fire and say at least twice a week, 3 times a week. But because I really think once it starts going, it's going to snowball pretty darn quickly, and
Hopefully.
we're going to have lots of things that we're going to need to keep track of. That's
anyway,
going to be part of our responsibilities.
I'll open up
Yeah,
my
I
post.
spent about 2 hours
read
reading
it out.
Ironsoul's post the other day.
I'm pretty much
Because,
on the forum every day. I just don't necessarily reply to everything on the day because I tend
I
to
would
cogitate.
really love it if you replied.
That's the other thing. As management, okay, we had pagers at one job that I had, and my director was a dick, okay? And that's the word in the dictionaries. It's not a bad word. But sometimes they would page you, and I wound up like answering my page, and I was the only one of the management who did. I got like a $50 bonus because of it. What I propose that we do is whenever we read a post, even if you just reply with your name, like Derek, that means you read it. At least let us be able to track who has been there. That way we have accountability. Can we agree to that? Even if you have nothing constructive to say, at least type your name there so you know that you've been there and you're privy to the information, and you will be held accountable for said information.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do that.
Anyway,
What if you only read?
teams,
What if you only read part of the thread?
just say you only read part of it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll just read out a summary version of my team's post because it would take me about 5 minutes to read. I can do it in about 30 seconds. So a team is more a way of organizing what we're working on and also organizing how much we're doing. What does a team do? They build the assets. They put together stuff that we've decided need to be put together. That's pretty simple. And the biggest part of a team is the team leader. The team leader, they do 2 things. They document the progress with that work log that I showed you last week. And they also build the to-do list to guide all the team members on what to work on. It's not hard and fast, it's never set, but it's like, this is what I would like you to work on. You don't have to, but it would probably be best for the project if you did. And the last thing, after I've clarified any questions from what I just said there, is I would like us to set up some teams.
I agree.
Design meeting right now.
Let's do it. Who do you propose? Or do we have anybody who wants to volunteer? Or better yet, what categories do you have open? Or that will be
Okay, well, we can always make a team if there's a need for one. There's never a limitation for that, but the ones I've observed that we need one for is the comic book, the concept art team, 3D models, just a big team for that. We can always split it up later. Code and game design.
All right.
And that's what I've got so far. There's probably others that I've missed.
Well, let's concentrate on the ones that you have right now. So go down the list.
Okay.
Very first one was what?
Comic book.
I'm going to say I'm going to volunteer Mr. Ray Lewis because this is his baby, his storyline, and I'd like to nominate him to be lead for that.
Okay. I have to make this clear. The comic book leader doesn't actually, the team leader doesn't actually decide explicitly what gets worked on. They only get to decide what gets worked on from a global list. They can still tell the lead design person or the lead art person what they want in the global list, but they don't actually get to decide that themselves.
Okay.
They're
I
mainly
understand
their
that.
organization.
Okay. That sounds good. I think Mr. Ray will do a fine job with that.
The reason
Okay.
for that is I don't want someone saying, oh, I suddenly think we need 50 new assets in this entire project and deciding on that, which would probably be confusing.
I agree. So anybody second Mr. Ray? Steve, second him.
I'll second Mr. Ray.
Okay.
Is he here?
No, he's not. He's at the moment moving. He's going to need a brand new Apple so-and-so thing, and he will
Okay.
be able to be your next class or meeting.
But the thing the team leader does, he's like the hub of information. All the people who want to do work for that team, they talk to the team leader, and he talks to the main design leaders about what's going on and keeps all the information, everyone in the loop.
Okay.
The other thing is they need to make that work log. What I'll do is any team leaders can send me a message and I'll help them get the work log set up in a format that makes sense and is maintainable.
Okay.
You just PM me on the forums and I'll do my best.
And the other thing, guys, make sure your PM boxes, and I'm guilty of it too, can accept PMs.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's empty enough. All right, so I think we'll have an official decision on the comic book when Ray is here, but he'll probably do it because he has to accept himself.
Right. No, I agree.
So we'll do that next week if he's here.
Okay.
If not, we'll have to figure something out. Anyway, the second team is Concept Art.
Anybody want to step up to this plate?
I'll take care of concept art. Duspa.
All right. I will nominate Mr. J.
I'll second it.
Well, I was going to nominate Derek, but I'll second that.
Of the team.
Do you know what we kind of need?
A
We need a
beer?
repository. Well, yes. We need a repository of forum names to real names, and/or to decide to use either real names or forum names, because it's confusing.
It is NATO, Nitro, Chris, Ryan. Just saying.
My
Mine's
name
the
is
same.
easy.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. J, you're it. You going to be up for this task?
Yes, I am. I'm gonna try to just focus on the concept art and less on the design, just to make sure I have time to get everything done.
Okay, plus it'll help your portfolio too.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
We're on the
You
same
can
page.
only be the team leader of one team.
That's perfect then.
All right,
Okay.
the next team, the 3D model team. Do we have anyone to nominate?
I'm going to say...
I really don't think I can take lead, so whoever wants to take that.
I'm
I
not
can do the
convinced.
3D model team if you want.
I would nominate you, Iron, because of your background, and I like the whole interview thing. I didn't know that about you, how you're part of a modeling team or a troupe that models, what, once a week, speed modeling?
Yeah,
I'd love to have your knowledge and your speed and just your point of view on this.
not really speed modeling, but we're making a bicycle now.
It'll be fast when it's done.
No, it's going to take ages, like 10 weeks.
All right, Iron Soul. Well done. I wait, make it official. I nominate Iron Soul. Anybody second?
Second.
Rock on.
Yeah, I'll second.
Congratulations, sir. What is next?
The next one is code feature implementation. This is not design of code. This is once code's been designed, who's getting it into the game and working.
Nelson.
Huh?
We
Second.
just nominated. Second, you're it.
For what? What?
He has to accept.
What am I accepting?
Well, he will accept. He will.
Team leader for code feature implementation.
Paying everybody $1,000.
It seems
Team,
like...
team leader, team people, you're everything.
Yeah, I'm the team.
Go
Okay.
team.
How many of you
Nelson.
had so far? Nelson?
Hmm?
How many have you had so far?
Oh, 0.
Beers.
Actually.
Oh.
I know, that's even worse.
And yes, teams can be one person. Alright, the final one in my list was game design.
Anybody want to step up to that plate?
More
I guess kind
documentation.
of by default me, but
I thought
More
that was too.
documentation than
Yeah,
design. Just keep that in mind.
say again.
You're more documenting progress than actually designing it, being the team leader. Of course, you are the lead designer.
Yeah,
you
that
design
kind of
anyway, so
falls into the category of a lead designer
Yeah.
anyway.
it'd probably take an
Works for
extra
me.
hour out of your week to do all the documentation.
I nominate Chris.
Second.
You're it. So now that we have leads, we need to find out who are going to be part of their teams, if anybody.
How team members work is a team member just looks at the to-do list and works on something that interests them. And then they contact the team leader when they've worked on it a bit. They can't be bothered working on it anymore that week.
You know, I'd love to be able to do, okay, I'm going to be, here I am dead honest with you guys, okay? I would love to find a way to post this on the, not the member sponsor lounge, but just, you know, hey, you're the everyday guy at 3D Buzz, to get them interested. But I have the problem of saying, well, I know you want to work on this, but I need you to be a member sponsor first before we can work on this. Any ideas? And because 3D Buzz, I mean, you have to run the lights and the computer stuff and all that. But what would be a good point of attack on getting member sponsors for this? Because you have to be one to be able to work on the team.
Make a post in the everybody's lounge
When you get
to
people
attract
interested, then
attention.
we need some sort of gallery.
Yeah, post
people are
pictures
working
or
with.
something like that of what we got for concepts and everything.
We got like probably over 200 pictures for concepts.
Yeah.
I just don't know where to put them. Or
Yeah, I'm working on a solution for that at the moment, actually.
okay.
There are two more things I need to talk about. The first is the rate that we make global decisions official and the rate that we make local decisions official. Because
I think-
we'll all be talking about ideas and we say, oh, it would be cool if we could do that, this, that, or another, but at some point we need to say, okay, this feature is going into the game. It's going to be locked in, and we can always remove it, but it's going to be locked in, and we are going to put some effort into making it happen.
I agree. I like to set
At that point,
milestones.
we need a backlog,
And,
a backlog of features.
Yeah.
That
And
you can promote into.
I suggest that we have a rate rather than a date. So 2 features a week, for example. And then if we get all those done in that week, we'll increase it to 3 a week. If we get all those done, we'll increase it to 4 a week. And we'll just increase and decrease the rate that we add new features into the design document based on how fast we're working.
So a quota system.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. How do you want to implement that? Do you want to say
Um,
on every second week? No,
oh,
never mind. That's a bad idea.
every 1 week. There are two definitions I need to make absolutely clear: what a feature is, what an asset is. A feature is a description of something that we want to happen in the game. It could be the interface of the game or the story, or concept art feature. An asset is a piece of tangible content that goes into making a feature happen. So let's say, for example, I want to be able to hit an enemy on the head with a big club. That's the feature. The assets would be the club, the animations, and the damage code. Any sound effects. Do we all agree on those two definitions?
Yes. Jawohl.
Yeah, I think there's another high level one as well, which is generally referred to as epics in my industry. But like basically being able to explain that we want a combat system would be an epic, and it's related around a MOBA style. But then that needs to be then broken down into smaller features.
You mean so is an epic sort of like a milestone, but not that big?
No, it's not necessarily a milestone. It's basically a feature that needs
like
to be broken down a lot more before you can start
so it's like a bunch of
estimating.
features.
It
can
could
still be
yes.
described as one thing.
It's like a group of features that described as the same thing. Yeah.
All right, I think we can have that too. So epic, did you say?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to add definitions to the global definitions document after this meeting. All right, so I don't think we have time to do it this week, even though I would really like to decide on some global features and assets which the team leaders can then work on, because I don't think we're going to have time to do that in this meeting, because I want to keep it within the 2 hours. What we can do is we can just keep working as we have always been for the past, 26 weeks, and then we'll get some proper assets and features decided on next week.
I'll tell you what, because I believe it's important, and I'm not trying to set, and I want Steve's idea on this too. I don't want to throw my art teams aside, but I'm willing to give at least 15 to 20 minutes when we come back so we can have a goal to start working on immediately. I don't think we should wait another week to say, okay, this is what we're going to start working on.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I concur completely. I think we need to have something moving forward on the design side. We're going to hit a wall where the art team really can't do anything unless we have design saying you need to do this. So.
All right. Well, how about we start with one feature for the whole design document, and then one asset per each team.
All right. So let's take 5 or 7 minutes right now. It's past the top of the hour, and I really got to go. We come back. Let's define that even more, what we want everyone to work on for the teams, and that way we can start going full steam ahead. Is that cool?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. 50 Shades Nelson, take us out. We'll be back in 7 minutes. Not 6, not 5, not 8, but 7. Everybody, this is yours truly, Mr. Derek T. Stevens. I actually went through the entire DMS. For those who do not know, that is the Mental Illness Guide. It's about 5,000 pages. I know them all, and I concur that Steve Curtis has 96% of them. That's what I did on my break. Mr. Nelson had 10 beers. We are back and ready to go at it again. Mr. Iron Soul, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, okay. So what we're doing right now is
Oh my crap, he's not back yet.
what we're doing right now is we're going to decide on one epic, two features, and 2 assets to every team. I've increased it to 2 just because 1 doesn't seem enough. So, just so all clear, an epic is a group of features that make sense. For example, a combat system or a chat system, or a death system, something like that. So that's an epic. Does anyone have any thoughts for what we want to go into the global document for Epic? And just so you're all clear, NATO always gets the final say on epics and features.
In terms of what we need to work on, I think we need to work on the basically the PvP combat system as an epic, and try to get some decisions around how we can break that down into smaller epics or features.
Okay, so combat system will be the epic, do you think? I would agree with that. Does anyone disagree?
Negative.
No, I think that's the name of the game right now. Excuse me.
We might not decide on epics as frequently as features and assets, but definitely a good idea to have one start. Alright, two
That would generally be a
features.
starting point, I think, the epics.
Yeah. Okay, 2 features. They don't have to be gameplay features, but they probably will almost always be gameplay features, and they will very likely have something to do with an epic. Does anyone have any thoughts on
I
the
suggest characters
features?
and stats in particular for a combat system. If we're going for a very, since we are going for a very kind of character-driven design.
Do you want a stat system as one of the features?
Yeah.
Um,
Specifically character types I'm looking at as well.
Okay, because I did want it a bit more specific. So, character stat would be another epic, but let's not worry about that. We can always have standalone features.
Yeah, this is the
So
thing
you-
about the design side of things, is it's not, I wouldn't, it's difficult to break it down into that kind of system, I think.
It
I mean,
is, but,
as discrete features, yeah, but as these epics, I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't need an epic to work from to have a feature. We can always have standalone features. So, you want a character stat system. Is that like attributes and skills, or?
It's kind of, yeah. It's difficult to convey and difficult to utilize without actually having kind of a
Alright,
more
well,
in-depth system
we
down.
We can always change things later on, but how about for now we will say and other features we can have is, I probably want features to be pretty specific, like I want to be able to hit someone on the head with a club. That would be a feature.
I think you're approaching this in a much too rigid manner in terms of design. I mean, this kind of approach works for like assets and stuff, but
well, this is more of
Yeah.
a thing where we want to flex. If for the design team, if we want the design team to make an asset, that would be a design document thing where we want that fleshed out and then worked on, and then we would say, okay, that's pretty good. It's going to the global design document. The asset would be the fleshed out version. Let's see, I want more detail on how this stat system is going to work. You need
And we
to
need
work on that.
decisions on what stat system we're going to use as well.
That's what I'm kind of lost at. When you say stat system, or like a D&D character sheet thing, that this is how many points you're going to spend on this, and this is not my forte. I'm not for sure how to lead.
Yeah,
by stat system, what I mean is all the characters are going to be different. They're going to be strong in certain areas and weak in others. We need some kind of system to represent that.
Do you have
So
an
it is-
example or anything we can look at?
okay. I think we should leave the stat system for this week. We don't really have
Yeah.
enough to go into that.
Okay, gotcha.
Um,
Topic for the forums.
I think it's probably
Particular-
too early to be thinking about the features in or trying to break down the stat system too much.
Yeah.
I think we need to start off with the epics and have that as a talking point, and our goal should be to create a certain number of features that come out of that epic sort of thing. So if we're
Yeah.
talking about the combat system, we need to then decide specific sort of smaller features that we're definitely going to do in that combat system.
Okay, so we limit our feature decisions based on an existing epic?
Yeah, I think so. For the moment,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would do it that way.
Let's do it that way for now. We can always change it. But that will be locked in for now. I've still got the key. Okay, so let's decide on one feature that has something to do with the combat system. We want to be able to deal damage to another. No, we don't want that. We want a player to have health and be able to take damage.
Okay. And how do we implement that? Who will be in charge of health and that?
Well, once we've designed it a bit, we then send that down to Nelson, who will then code it in and get it working as a prototype.
So what we're saying is we need more help from Nelson. How do you feel about that, Mr. Nelson? You got like zillions of things going on as well.
Well, Nelson and his team.
Yeah, if he wants us to work on something, or he wants us to put something in the official design document, like if it's something that he's not going to be able to work on, there's probably not as much reason to add it in. If there's something else that needs to be added in, that's more important.
All right.
Right. Okay. How about this?
Worded.
This is what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
I'm going to go away and I'm going to write up this idea I have in like a formal game design document. I will also include what I see as a feature list, which are discrete individual things that need to be designed and worked on for that model to work. What I need from anyone who wants to help me on this is I need specific character type at the moment. That's no, I'm not saying that's the most important thing. I'm thinking that's what's running through my head at the moment. What I mean by that is like whether or not you have a character who is a melee character who has lots of health.
You mean like
or
a class system?
Kind of like a class system. It's the sort of roles, what roles we want in the game. It won't equate to classes, but it's sort of, I want to know what people want to be able to do in this game in combat to fuel kind of how we design the stat system, how we design the combat. It's working from a base of what do we want to facilitate the players to be able to do.
Okay.
Because that's kind of what I need at the moment.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you want to make a post on the forums saying that as well?
Yeah.
All right. I think
like
we're going to have to... Sorry.
No,
Okay.
sorry, Karen.
All right. I think we're going to have to just not bother adding a feature this week. We can still have assets like concept art.
Okay. We can do that, and I concur. I'd rather have it well thought out instead of throw something out half-assed and take more time to clean it up later.
Yeah. All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to decide on 5 assets. We'll decide on them based on what we've currently been working on and what we know is probably going to be in the game. So the first team is comic. What asset do we want for that to be added to list? I'm guessing we want another frame done.
Let's try to get another page done. Actually, the goal next week is to get an entire page done.
Yeah, I will make it clear, the asset does not have to be completed within a week, but it's probably best if it is, but it doesn't have to be.
Our art team will complete it in a week.
Yeah. So which page is that?
10.
10, 11?
Page
Okay.
10?
Yeah, I have all but 10.
Yeah, I'm working on that one.
Okay, Mr. J is doing page 10.
Right, page 10 will go in the global asset list.
Okay.
And I will build the local asset list for this week because Dre is not available, just so we
Okay.
can keep things flowing. Concept art, Jizbar, what sort of things do you want to be worked on? Like, what is one piece of concept art you want to do? A city, office building, a concept art, a character?
Who are you calling on there?
Jizbar.
Jizbar.
What is it? What's his name?
Mr.
Oh,
J.
yeah, sorry, I was muted. I was going to do a city sort of environmental concept art for the humans.
just want to occupy a city?
Yeah, like one of like their major cities kind of thing, just to get the themes for the human set like locked down. And if other people want to do stuff, I'd like them to do come up with either some steampunk or industrial armor, and then we can look at those and decide which way we want to go for the humans in terms of their like armored look.
Okay,
Can you make
go ahead.
a post on the forums about that? What you want the other people to do?
Yeah, I can do that.
When you say armor, are you thinking of military, or are you thinking of the steampunk, I don't know, outskirt folks or whatever?
It could be both.
Either or?
Just because, yeah, we're just going to be comparing all level. Like, we just need, like, something to compare, basically, to decide where we want to go. Whoever comes up with the best one is going to be...
You know what... I'm sorry. You know what would be interesting is to try to come up with the very the industrial one, the military one, whatever, very high tech one, and then try and take that same concept and make a steampunk version of it.
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's try this. Everybody on the art team, okay, you want to do the city landscape thing, that's great for characters, because we still haven't nailed down a style. Let's do, like you said, the armor look, sleek armor for military. I'm going to do my manga fusion, and then I'm going to do a more cartoony version of the same pose, same armor, but in a cartoony fashion. Like tonight, whenever we take my screen, I don't want to say dumb down my artwork, but I made it a lot more simple because it may be actually easier to model. It still looks good, but it's a lot more cartoony than I've usually done. So if we can give the design team a choice, that might be really nice.
Feedback before you do this process.
Sure.
One of the things that I think is quite important in this is to have a wide variation of styles and themes to go with. Sorry, let me start again, coming from a different direction. One of the things that's important in a game like this is being able to quickly identify enemies coming towards you.
Right.
So to do that, you need to have quite a strong silhouette, which basically means you have to have a high variance of character models and character shapes that fit within the same kind of continuity. And one of the best ways to do that is to go down a slightly cartoony style, because like if you have a tank, they can be ridiculously huge and have a huge shield, and etc, etc, etc. They don't necessarily have to fit the continuity of everyone is a set sort of, 5 to 6 foot, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I just want to get
also-
that general style locked down, because we can't do silhouettes until we have character classes, or like even the system for character classes. So we just need like the...
Yeah, I'd like to see like just generic variations on like we know what an Alethian kind of build looks like, but I kind of want to see what like the two extremes people see.
Okay.
Kind of the actual kind of suggested range. Also, especially for the human side, because people seem to be talking about kind of different styles of human based on class structure, so whether they're high class or low class or whatnot like that. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're not like working together. So you can have someone who's in sort of high tech armor, who's working and fighting alongside someone who's like got a baseball cap and a baseball bat and doesn't really have anything else.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In terms of stylization.
Yeah, I'm not sure whose job it is to like nail down the style, like for like how we're gonna like lay out the humans, like in terms of their hierarchy or anything like that. I don't want to get like too into depth in terms of dividing up them.
I'm always uncomfortable interrupting, but I'm going to have to interrupt. We've got 3 more assets to decide on. Officially.
Okay.
Unofficially, you can work on anything you want. I have to make that clear. Unofficially, you can work on anything you want, and then it can become official later on. Alright, so 3 more assets. 3D model team. I'm the team leader, and I want the team I want some rocks, because rocks are always good and you always have rocks. So I want a small rock asset. That is what I'm going to add to the global list for the 3D model team.
Let me ask you something about 3D modeling. Do you want it textured? Do you have a poly counts? How do you want to do that?
The 3D modeling team, because there's only one team, that will include texturing as well. But if we end up with a whole ton of assets needing doing, we will split into separate teams. And then the 3D model team will not have to texture it. But at the moment, yes.
What if you're like me and you're not really used to using a paint program? I just model, and I don't even do that very well. I always have like a bunch of details. So as far as like texturing, I mean, where does our texturing come from? Is this something that we do within our software?
Well, I imagine we would work that out. If you only want to do the modeling, then you make the model and you talk to someone who can do texturing and get them to do the texture. Does that make sense? Like, say I'm fine with texturing, you hate it, but I can't be bothered making any models this week. You make a model and then you send it to me and I talk to you about it, and then I say, okay, well, here's what you need to do so I can actually texture it, because your geometry is all over the place. But if it's fine, then I can go ahead and texture it, and then we can say, well, we both worked on this one asset.
Sounds good, dude.
Okay, so small rock.
What kind of texture? Are we going for real cartoony, hand-painted, or?
At the moment, I would probably say anything you want. Once we have an art style down, if we'll fix up any issues we have, we'll remake assets or retexture them. But at the moment, it will be anything you want.
All right. Who all is on the 3D? Who's going to be modeling on the 3D team?
Anyone who wants to, but I will be making models myself, and I'm guessing Captain Ron will be.
Yeah, I would love to be a part of that.
Is anybody else in that group?
I would like to model if I can.
Miguel!
Miguel!
What's your...
How many people have texturing experience?
May I have some experience?
Tiny amount.
I'm sorry?
Tiny amount.
All right. Including normal maps, Miguel?
Yeah.
But for a rock, I really don't think it's going to be that hard to texture.
No, it's not, but I mean, it's a simple asset you'll use a lot of, and
yeah,
you can make it look really good versus nah,
Yeah.
And Steve has what called a tutorial on how to do rocks and Max.
Well, I was just going to say, if we're weak on the texturing side, I could put up a tiling. I could paint a tiling rock texture with a normal map and throw it up for people to work with.
Yeah, sounds good.
And what about those of us that are... Well, I guess Blender, Max, and mine are kind of similar. I'll just figure it out on my own.
Yeah, actually, the rock tutorial, no matter what you use, I think it's pretty easy to navigate it in whatever program. It's fairly simple steps. That was the whole idea of it. So.
Alright,
So you got
asset.
Okay.
Next asset we need to decide on is which code feature do we want to make official? Do we want to make any code features official this week? Or do we want to actually decide on one that will eventually go in the game?
Nelson, how do you feel?
Code?
I don't think we're really anywhere near having anything to implement in code.
Yeah.
I'm questioning whether or not we actually need to start making models. Really.
Well, Nelson's working on like the networking side, aren't you? So that's kind of infrastructure.
Actually, you're wrapping up CGS, aren't you?
CGS has been wrapped.
Not CGS. I mean CGS. Or am I thinking something else?
That's been finished.
Unity.
And understand, like you said, we may not need models necessarily, but I actually say that I want to go ahead and get started. I mean, we can always use rocks. Everything we're making is going to be that much cooler whenever we get this, our our site set up so people can see what we've done. Nothing gets me more excited than to see actual concept art turned into 3D models. And we can give our model team, kind of some, let's get your chops in order on some really simple stuff before they start doing, broad landscapes and character modeling. That way we can work out all the bugs now before we do something big.
Yeah, exactly. Help me
Makes
iron
sense.
out all my problems before we get into doing.
You might make a rock with 2 million polys. Anyway.
And by the next class, the first module for 3ds Max will be out that deals specifically with texture creation and modular modeling. Again, should be pretty easy to cross that over to whatever modeling program you use, but it'll give you some definitives for how to paint textures and do modular things for games. So.
And Blender's coming very soon for everybody. I will have almost a week to week and a half to do nothing but devote learning everything about Blender and exploring that. So hopefully, Iron Soul, I'll be able to help you out as well.
Yeah.
Hit me up when you do that so you and I can do some stuff together.
And who is speaking?
Captain Ron.
Captain Ron.
Captain Ron. Okay.
All right. So, Nelson, if you do have any code features, which is probably going to be one code file, script to go into Unity. If you do have anything you want to make official that will go into the game, just send me a PM and we'll end up making it official fairly shortly.
I'm kind of interested to know what is next on your plate, Nelson, in terms of things that you're going to do.
I'm still working with Jason on that, and we're probably going to be announcing something soon.
Yeah, until you've got something to announce, we'll just leave it for now. Game design? Is there any assets, any game design assets, such as a section of a game design document or an entire game design document you want written? That will be official?
Just leave it with me.
Alright, so we'll leave it with you for now.
Yeah.
Hey Nelson, real quick question. I know you weren't there when Lee and everything was there, but are we able to use anything from the previous venture on this game, this idea here? The textures, the land, the mountains, water, ships?
Yeah, I mean, we have a library of assets that were made for the previous game, of course. I don't know how extensive it is.
Any way to categorize them and give it to one of the leads so we know what we've already made and that we have?
I can take a look at it, but it's probably mostly going to be things. There isn't that many. It's mostly going to be things for testing. And I see that as the primary use case of them.
All right.
That's everything decided for this week with the assets and features and whatnot. I'll make a forum post with what we decided on, and I'll also update the relevant documents.
Sounds like a plan, guys, and we're moving forward. I like that. My wife's like, how's class going? I'm like, we're moving forward. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
so I'm proud of us.
That's me done for this live class for this week. I'm not going to leave, but I don't have anything else to say.
All right. Well, we got about 20, 30 minutes left. Can we move on to art?
Let's do that. Miguel, you got anything this week you want to show?
Yeah, I did 2 concepts for the civilians you asked last week.
Brilliant. Mr. 50 Shades, can you take Miguel's screen, please? Thank you, Mr. Iron Soul.
No problems.
I think you got the wrong person there.
Yeah, you got Nick. That's cool. We'll just start there and... Or not.
Or not.
Sorry, I missed.
That's all right. You're such a tease. Such a tease. Dude!
Cool.
This is the poor civilian.
You've come a long way, my friend.
I mean, I can do that, but then there won't... If I change it out in the middle of the program, I'll lose audio.
What, Steve?
Nothing. Household stuff. Ignore me.
Oh,
Keep
sorry.
going.
Miguel, talk. Explain, Lucy, explain.
Well, this is the concept for the poor civilians, maybe the outcast. And my screen got black.
I like the clothing.
Yes,
I like it.
I,
I like it too.
I went
definitely.
for. Okay, I decided to put some very worn out clothes on. Maybe read a little, and I don't know. Uh, looks kind of sad. I don't know why.
I wish I looked like Miley Cyrus.
Oh yeah, the short hair.
Short
I was thinking about the Alien 3 movie, where these outcasts were bald or were having very little short hair because of the lice problem they had. That was my inspiration to give her a very short haircut.
Hey, girls with short hair show their long, beautiful necks. I'm all over that stuff. No, really well done. I like that.
Miguel, it looks like her right arm is a little thinner than her left to me. It's a minor thing.
But overall, I'm getting this style.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for right now is her clothing, and I like
Right.
the things on her calves, or her shins, I guess that's what they're called. I really like how the boots or the pants are tucked into that. I like the bandage. I like the rips. It's a really good feel, and you can tell, boom, she's down on her luck, and she's not one of the rich, snooty people. Well done, Miguel. I like that. Keep that, okay?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just show me the second one.
The second one is this one. I decided to make a scientist.
I love that little wrist thing he's got going on. That's nice.
Well, this looks a lot cleaner than the girl. That's because he's the scientist maybe working for the military or for the very privileged social group that lives in Elysia.
I like that. He must be a private sector doctor because nobody in the military would have that 5 o'clock shadow, sir. I'm teasing, I'm sorry. It's probably way off on a tangent. No, really well done though. It's nice, clean lines, and it will give our design team things to think about. Because again, we're going to have to nail down the style. And I like that yours is very semi-realistic. So we can definitely explore that. And that's the beautiful thing about all the artists that we have here. Each one brings a different, unique style. But there will be a time very shortly, I'm hoping, that we pick one style, and even if it's something I'm not comfortable with, darn it, I'm going to have to learn whatever style that we're going to go with.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult.
We'll have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Or at the same time, you know what? I mean, I know what you're doing, and I understand it, and you can throw out ideas like this, and if it winds up being a more cartoony style, you know, I can draw a cartoony pose and just basically make this guy's whatever style we want. That way we can still keep getting your ideas for the clothing and positions and poses like that. We go down that avenue as well.
Let's make them all chibis and use nothing but pastels.
Oh, that's fantastic. Are we going to use a lot of pink? Because that would be awesome.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
Fabulous! All right, well done. Let's move on. Who's next?
I've got a lot of stuff to show if you guys want to go to me.
Roger that. Let's go ahead and do that. Miguel, well done.
Thank you.
Seriously, I love the shoes. Really great on the detail. Love the laces. Love everything about it. Actually, those are really
Good.
goggles.
You gotta tell Nelson the name.
Jisba, the one you missed it.
Mr. J.
Okay, so what I got done this week was I got like an industrial style like combat armor thing drawn, just to give some reference instead of doing like all steampunk stuff. So I made
like
them all
that.
chunky and boxy. Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah, I didn't really try to go for realism. I sort of went cartoony because I was almost just drawing boxes till I had a character done.
That's good. And again, what I like to do, if it's not next class or next meeting, the meeting after that, I want to finalize an art style. I would like to, and I can do this, or both you and I, Mr. Jisba, can do this, get each category from the photorealistic stuff that we got to the super cartoony to the manga stuff and throw out samples, and then we can kind of all vote on this is a style, or we can say that they all suck. We really want to move in direction Z, do something totally different.
Yep, that sounds like a solid plan. I was going to make a forum post with everything, like sometime probably this weekend, hopefully like Sunday-ish, with all the different styles we have so far.
Here, let me send you something as you were talking. Keep talking and showing.
Okay, and my next one was I had what I've got done for page 10. I had that rough sketch from whatever it was, like a week or two ago, and I've started adding some detail on top of it, but it's nowhere close to done yet. Yeah, it's kind of hard doing all the matches because I don't think we have all the matches like done yet, so I wasn't sure what to do with that up there.
Hold on, let me look here. Okay. Man, wish Mr. Ray was here.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if people were still working on the matches or whatever. I might just do it myself if we don't have them.
I know Wolf's got one or two, right?
Well, I'm gonna work on, I have an idea for the wind mage that I'm gonna work on.
Okay, well I'll just try to get those bottom 3 panels done and wait till later to finish the top one.
I'll work on it this week.
Mr. J, inside the forums here, that's
Guys,
my DV.
don't we have all the matches in the previous panel?
Yeah, but they're like
tiny, and like some of them are gonna have to be bigger in that top panel, I think. So I wanted, before I got too far ahead of myself, I was going to make sure they were close to right at least.
All right.
They're not hugely detailed, so they could really kind of be anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, they were literally like 10 pixels high, 20 pixels high, something like that.
Hey, Mr. J, inside the forums is my DeviantArt page. You're going to find lots of Alethian stuff there, so you can put up on the site, and or Dropbox too. We've got tons of art. Do you have okay, you have the privilege of getting the Dropbox.
Yeah, I've got the Dropbox, and I think I already have a link to your. I can find your whatever it is DeviantArt site off of mine because I think you left me a note at some point.
I did, like, you suck, go away.
Yeah, that was probably it. Could have been.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, I had this one that you said you wanted me to like talk about how I did it last week.
Yes.
So I started actually with this one with a really old drawing of mine. I just wanted to make it bigger. So I did like that, which is like 300 by 500 pixels a while back. And I just roughed it in with brushes and added like textures on top of it. So I'll open up some of these. So like the sky was just me like painting textures and smudging them together, and I started with that. Yeah. And then the next thing I did was the land. I just sort of roughed in the shapes. So I made each shape on its own layer. So like you had the foreground. So, I'm not even sure what that was. My computer's running real slow with all the stuff open. Yeah, I'm not sure what that one is. And then there's that layer there, which was the sort of one of the midgrounds, then the other midground, and the background on its own layer.
So for those who are listening, layers are your friends, always are your friends, and I see that you have them organized as well, and that really, really helps.
Yeah, so how I would do each layer was I would basically take a brush and just make a shape for the rocks, and then I'd set up the alpha lock and paint on top of it, just so you could bring out all the colors. Here, I'll zoom in real quick. Then I went in after I drew it like really big and went on the actual pixel size and started like making things lighter where I thought there'd be like a top surface to stuff, and then like darkening like back areas away from the light that I drew in the sky.
Nice. Again, pushing the darks darker, the lights lighter, and you get something pretty.
Yep. And then what did I do? And then what I did was I took all the land land stuff, and I made reflections of them real quick. Just so you get like the reflections in the water from where they'd be. And then I collapsed that layer and merged it with, I'm missing some land there. And I started doing like water type effects where I'd like smudge them around where like the waves would distort the reflections, and drawing in like white stuff for where the water would hit rocks or the shore, or like a wave would break, something like that. And then I added, then I went in and added like rock textures to like detail the stuff in front there. Then I like brought in a base figure that I drew in Manga Studio and painted over it, and just added shadows and stuff till it was done.
So how long did the process take you from start to finish, do you think?
About 20 hours.
Wow. You can see it, man, though. I don't think I've ever spent more than like actually no, the comic book page I did today is about 5 hours. So about 5 to 6 hours on anything, one thing ever. I'd love to have 20 hours.
I think you would die if you did that, Derek.
I would not die.
You're too ADD. Your brain would explode.
It would. That's why I will never be a pixel artist, animator guy, ever again.
But yeah, high detail concept work, finished concept work is an easy 20 to 40 hours or more.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to do like a human city with maybe like a different color scheme. When I was talking about analogous colors in the chat, I'm talking about something like this, where you stick within like 90 degrees on the color wheel, just so that everything seems tied together in terms of color.
I would really love to see a couple of palettes that you think would be good.
I think I have my web portfolio open someplace.
Right, it's on. You build a city, I build a city. I'm going to do it in 10 hours. By 10, I mean 5, most likely 2.5. And you'll blow me away, understand that. But I will give you a city next week. I'm writing it down right now, city.
So I'm thinking like the color palettes are like red, yellow, purple kind of color ones, and then the other one would be something more along the lines of this one, where it's like sort of like darker blues, like
I love that.
More blues, yellows, and greens mixed together.
That is
and those
beautiful,
would be like
man.
the two different factions color schemes, sort of where you'd have like really high contrast when you went from one faction to the others.
This guy's got me excited.
I know,
By the
right?
way, this is another one of yours I'd like to see it drop another 10 hours in and really detail. The concept's outstanding.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to do. I wanted to do something architectural. That's where I'm going to do the city next, and then I want to do like a big character concept, and then I'm going to do another. I was actually going to do that landscape after I got those two things done.
Sweet.
Is that like a lighthouse or an entire?
It was like a magical lighthouse tower thing, yeah.
Cool.
I was thinking of that a while back. Actually, I posted a thing about what would the Alethian concept of a lighthouse be, and you pretty much nailed it. What I was
Hells
thinking.
yeah. I had one of those drone ships flying over my house.
Yep. But that's all I have for this week, unless you guys want to see more of my portfolio that I built this week.
Really, really good stuff, man. Is that your human model?
This was the model in that bottom, whatever it is, this one like down here, the bottom corner.
Yeah.
The same one I used in that Steam one. The Steam one was me painting over models I made really fast. Like I was trying to do illustrations for a concept document in about a week's time, so I just made a bunch of like Zeppelins out of similar models and stuff like that, and then painted over them.
Really well done, and one hell of a great workflow, by the way.
Yep. I really like doing it that way. If I've got like really basic shape stuff to do, and I need it in like really strong perspective.
You know, before Manga Studio, I mean, I would throw that in Maya and do a vector render on like a vehicle that I create, then throw that in a light box and blah, 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 blah. But now, because of the power of Manga Studio, now I'm still learning it to get finite details for like buildings and stuff, but it's getting easier and easier to get what I need. So it really comes down to, you got to have talent, you have to have a vision, but the tools definitely make the artist. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. It definitely does. You can move models around like that.
Well done, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm proud of you. I'm looking forward to seeing more. And now you've already set the benchmark, so you can't disappoint or kittens will cry.
I know. It's going to be horrible.
It will. All right, jump to my screen, Mr. Nelson, real quick. Do we have anybody on the else on the art side here?
Me.
Oh, sorry. Jump to Wolf, then I will close this out. Oh, hold on. Let me go to me. It's my screen. Here we go. We'll go to me, then we'll close out with Mr. Never mind. Stay with. Go to Wolf, then I'll close this out. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello. You're up.
Hey.
Looking good.
Finish this this page. It's page 9.
I love the staff. I love that glow that you got on it.
Yeah, me too.
It really complements the sky.
That's funny because me and I had planned on doing this, and Steve emailed me about maybe the staff should be glowing or something. Already had that planned.
What I really like is the top right corner, or the B quadrant, whatever you want to call it, 1B. As he's handing the staff over, it's not glowing, but the minute she touches it, boom, flame on.
Right. I wanted it to indicate that for the reader that that there is a magical connection between her and the staff.
I think you did a great job. Well done.
Thanks.
I love the background that you put there for Senshi as well. My background originally was way different than that. It's sharp. Looks really nice.
What, you mean here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jizba's.
Oh, I like that, Jizba. I like how you... Yeah. We're moving stuff around and, yeah, working smart, not hard.
Cool.
Well done.
And I also wanted to show you this artist guy. He did the Star Wars characters, but
Fang?
What?
Feng Zhu? No, Feng.
This guy. He
I
did
like
Star
that.
Wars characters, but as steampunk. And that's kind of what I was. That's kind of what I was suggesting earlier. That to try and make the industrial nice version, and then the steampunk version of the same thing, which would be kind of Hansel.
I like it.
Isn't that clever?
It's very clever.
But I mean, I think that would kind of. I mean, it's. I don't know if there's going to be class. I don't know if there's going to be classes that would be the same class in the industrial version or not. But
the way I've seen it in my head anyway, we have the Eletians. We've kind of broke them all down. They have their. I like that. Wow, that was nice. They have the kind of their own particular looks. But with the humans, just looking at society now and where we're going, you're going to have the haves and have-nots. The haves will be military. We're going to be nice, sleek. Everything will be. It can be small and powerful. And then you have the people, like you say, kind of live on the outskirts. The everyday man. It will be piecing things together because they're not part of the military.
Well, I'm saying, like, if you're going to be the tank warrior class on the humans, then maybe there's you can be the industrial one or.
Exactly, I see what you're saying. The industrial or the sleek. I got you.
But I think it's a good way to put your mind around the same kind of concept, the basic concept for functionality, but in two different styles.
I like it. Good point.
And
Yeah, I agree.
look at this. This is the lightsaber.
Very interesting.
It's crazy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's a great Jawa. I'm sorry.
That was horrible. No one even believed you there.
I know. I'm sorry. Really great trooper.
Look at that.
Oh, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Now we know why Yoda talks that way.
What's that?
Now we know why Yoda talks like that.
Constantly stoned. Man, I got to step my game up and start playing through color. I like them. Well done and good research too. That gives me, I'm very visual, so now we talked about it, it's in my head, and that's what we'll definitely do.
Right,
Or
but I
I
mean,
will,
what? Go ahead.
or I will attempt to next week.
But these, I mean, these are just such great steampunk designs. But it's just, I think it's really inspiring just to look at them.
You know, come to think of it, couldn't we build like an industrial-looking steampunk and like a sleeker-looking steampunk, and then go from the really industrial steampunk to the really sleek one as you level up?
That's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, that's
to take things from way back when and kind of give them, maybe leave the barrels sort of in the same style but a modernized look, like maybe an octagonal barrel for my muzzle loader, and then having like a plastic damn it, what am I trying to say, foregrip and stock and stuff like that.
yeah.
And then, you know, you throw in all that fancy art, because like steampunk is kind of like a fancy thing, and you even see that when you're sitting here looking at the stormtrooper, because he has like all the gold detail around his armor and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is we would go from like something with the big chunky like gears that are all dirty to something smooth and slick like the Stormtrooper for the military people.
I dig it. Okay, let's do that.
Interesting idea, yeah.
And hopefully that will separate us. I'm not for sure. I'm sure there's somebody out there making a game right now, if there's not already a game out there like that. But I think it would be a very interesting feel.
Well, steampunk is kind of horribly overdone these days. It has been absolutely hammered to death. Just something to think about.
Well, so is industrial. Like, there's no style that I haven't seen hammered to death in games at this point.
That is true, I guess.
And steampunk's just easily definable, and you can be like, hey, just add some chunky gears to that gun, and you've got it steampunk. It'll be easier to like give artists direction in terms of steampunk compared to something that requires some more subtle effects, like really like industrial look or something like that.
While that is true, we don't want to fall into the trap of sticking gears to things and calling it steampunk.
Yeah, I know, but exactly. But like, I'll try to come up with some guidelines for like how to set up something so it looks functional and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll work on it and see where we come to.
This is my steampunk waffle maker.
Like, well, I mean, we might not be going this way, but I mean, I was just thinking like a version here where this is actually, it's all gold plated, all this design, but what about one where these are all like LED, or they're like lights, you know?
That would be cool.
You know, like just kind of almost a Tron-y look.
Tronish look. Yeah.
In a way. But I mean, just like the designs, they're kind of electronical.
It's something definitely we can play with.
I was kind of thinking cowboy / pirate. You know, you try to put those two together, you know, you'll have the duster with the crazy pirate boots and hats and swords and guns. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'll come more into play in like character classes, because you can start mixing up like pirates and soldiers and stuff later on once we actually know what the classes are going to be.
Yeah, this is what I was saying before, wanting kind of more distinct character classes to work on the character types specifically. Yeah.
I just think that overall design, though, you know, you bring in those two parties for humans, along with your distinct and modernized military.
All right, hey, Mr. 50 Shades, take my screen real quick, please.
I'll try and do some research.
Believe it or
to find
not,
out.
we actually explored some cowboy aspects, and I was doing like Galaxy Rangers here.
Oh, please, God, shoot me.
I know, Steve's like, I just riding on a mechanical horse looks stupid.
Braveheart, or Braveheart, oh God, I'm sorry. Braveheart, I think is what it was called. The cartoon, the guy rode around on a mechanical horse. It would ride like a horse, or it would turn into like a little aircraft and fly off.
Yeah, Eve was talking about that. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that up there because you guys were talking about it. We kind of explored the cowboy outfit idea. Steve's like, no mechanical horses and no handkerchiefs on their necks because it makes them look stupid.
Oh, well, we could make a mechanical horse plausible. We could.
Right.
You
Today,
guys hate me.
Start out, and it comes from a rodeo.
today I made my stuff very cartoony again because I wanted to give options. Because again, it's still manga style, but not the fusion manga that I'm used to drawing. So we have over here, where's my little pointer? We got the chick who's a sniper, big ass weapon through here. And they're all like warrior classes, soldier type classes. This guy has the Rocketeer's helmet where he uses a jetpack to like fly in and bust people from the air. Basically like a super leap sort of thing. Heavy weapons specialist, RPGs, more of sleeker type soldier. And anyway, that's what I came up with, again, to give options and start exploring different sort of art styles. Thoughts?
I like them. They've got really good silhouettes.
I certainly like the approach to having a more varied kind of silhouette and more varied build of characters.
Yeah, I think one of the problems, though, I've been thinking about it is...
So these are all warriors.
Yeah, like a fighter class.
Yeah, from like a design standpoint, I think making the classes really distinct in terms of their silhouette might be an issue because people are going to want to customize their character, like whether they're like big and ripped or skinny or muscular or whatever. So we're going to have to like make the gear that you'd use for the class be the stuff with the distinct silhouettes more than the actual shape and size of the character.
It depends how much
Do a
character
color scheme,
customization
but,
you give to players.
Yeah, that is
For
true.
colorblind people.
So again, real quick, showing from here, where's my other page at? It's the page I did today. The lettering's only placeholders right now, but most of the time I draw my characters in this sort of style, and the more I talk to Steve about it, I mean, I think doing this sort of style would take a lot more work. And I'm not wanting to shy away from work, but I don't know how realistic it is to do something as this style as opposed to this style. It's just something to keep in the back of your guys' minds.
Well, it's kind of like the difference between looking at Team Fortress 2 and Call of Duty. You know, where Team Fortress 2 is a lot lower sort of resolution that conveys kind of more characterization through each character's appearance, whereas something like COD has a more kind of high resolution photorealistic approach where like the variation between different characters is all down to their clothes and kind of how they move.
This looks a little overly cartoony for me for the game. I mean, I like the look of it, but for the game, I think, and there's a lot of people who are turned off by games that look too cartoony. It doesn't feel feels like it's geared for kids or something.
It's on the opposite end of the uncanny valley.
Kind of disagree.
And I think doing it too much cartoony wouldn't look weird when you see the Elysians.
I'll have to agree with Wolf Knightley though. I think it's a bit too cartoony for this particular game, or at least what I want it to look like. That's just me.
And Wolf Knightley.
While I see the desire to, I don't see that we can. I don't see I don't see that the reality of the situation reflects, you know, that call.
Well, I mean, to a degree, these are very cartoony silhouettes, which I'm not sure I'm not okay with. How cartoony they look is going to come down a lot to the texture work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Take a look at
if you paint it really cartoony.
Well, I mean, what's Borderlands? Those are, I mean, they're cartoony, but they don't look like kitty cartoony, you know?
No, they have cartoon proportions, but they don't have.
Yeah, and again, that all came down to their texturing choices.
Yeah.
Right.
As I was saying, take a look at the new XCOM. That's a really good example of kind of, because the characters are actually relatively low resolution and they have really quite simple textures, but they look really good and they are kind of a industrial
It's not XCOM.
style.
It's actually the Bureau.
Sorry?
Just saying. It's not an XCOM. It's not XCOM. It's the Bureau.
No, I'm not talking about the new one that's coming out. I don't count that as an XCOM game. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm talking about
Anyway.
MMO.
Oh, right.
The one from last year. Sorry, I completely forgot that the Bureau. It is an XCOM game. It's just not called. It's the Bureau XCOM Declassified, but that's entirely
You said
another
the
point. Let's get onto that.
Most recent. You said the most recent one.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that was a mistake.
I'm still going to argue for an art style similar to Half-Life 2 because I really like the look of that game.
We can't. We don't have the people. We don't have the people. We don't actually have the skills. We can't produce something photorealistic like that, and it sucks. But that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
In
I'm all
reality.
I'm all for it being
Can
like
we?
toon cell shaded look and simple, but it's probably more the silhouettes are it's over exaggerated in a way that makes it look like a kid's toy or something or cartoon.
How about we do this? Because Iron Soul's in charge of modeling, why don't we take, just for a test, and I'll draw it up, I don't mind, you guys vote on it. Say we take the chick like this here, and then I draw like a manga fusion style, which is more not photorealistic, but more realistic, and see what he can't do, poly count and time-wise.
Well, and I mean, we can have lower poly, bigger, more aggressive silhouettes. That doesn't mean we can't use a color palette similar to Half-Life 2, which I am in favor of, that, you know, uses subdued hues and not a lot of high specularity and still get kind of that gritty feel that Half-Life 2 has.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. But we can't go photorealistic. It's just not. It's not an approach we can take.
No.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
I really
Half-Life 2
think
is
everybody will
photorealistic.
be amazed at the look we can get based on texture work alone once we start getting.
There's a ton you can do to make something look photorealistic just by pulling a photo you take of like the concrete in your driveway to make something look photoreal just by blending that concrete driveway onto some really simple texture you painted. Like I did like an entire level that was just literally Photoshop textures, and it came out looking photoreal. So I could help people with that if it came down to that.
And
While that is true, I think we, in the long run, will come up with something a lot better if we stick to a very specific art style that is simple and clean.
as somebody brought it up at one meeting that I kind of agree with, that it's kind of a sharp look to have the environment being on the more realistic side, but the characters being more of a cel-shaded cartoon look. That kind of can be striking.
I definitely think we need to do some tests next week. I'm going to attempt the city thing, and then I'll draw, like I said, more realistic-looking sniper chick like this, and let's talk about pros and cons. And Iron Soul, I really want you to think. I don't know how much time you have, but maybe you can have your art guys start modeling both of them and just keep track of time, polys, and let's just do, well, hell, like they did in Lord of the Rings, their proof of concept. Have you ever seen their video where they have the cave troll bouncing a ball, and the ball comes up and hits him in the head and he falls down? This is what we need to do. It's proof of concept. We need to have that in these early stages. It will help us dictate what we're going to be driving later on. So this is the perfect time to be testing everything out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Prototype stuff.
Definitely. All right, so we have our assignments. I got a lot to do. Everyone's got a lot to do on their plate. And it's going to be hard for everybody. It's going to take a lot more time and whoever's working on the way we can showcase our artwork and what we've done, we got to make that a priority too, because I really believe we're going to need more team members. We're the core. You guys have been here since the start. So let's build, and let's make this game happen in reality.
Can we just make like... Oh, sorry.
No, round table time. Go ahead. You're first up.
Alright, couldn't we just make like a DeviantArt page or something and give everyone the password and be like, call it like 3D Buzz MMO on the DeviantArt, and then we could just throw up concept art and what we've been working on the DeviantArt and just give everybody the password and let them do stuff?
You know you can link from public folders on Dropbox, right?
I had no idea you could do that. Well, we could make a public folder where we'd put stuff to show off to you.
You can link from private folders too.
Can you?
My biggest thing
give
is...
a direct URL, you had to have it on the public folder.
But
I would like to
public
maybe
folders
even have Nelson make a page or a banner, like pick 2 to 3 really nice stellar pieces of what we're working on. Click on the banner that will link people to the page, because I've noticed a lot of times, you know, like, hey, follow this link here, but you don't see a picture. Like, I'll do it later. Or is that link really safe? I'm not sure if I want to go to that link. Ideally, what I like to do is have something on 3D Buzz where the picture's already there on the forums. I just don't know how to load them up, and it would be a hell of a lot to load up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think we need more than something we can just link into. I think it needs to be someplace easily searchable so people who are just wandering around the internet might run across it.
Yeah, because we have a banner up there. They just click on that banner, and then, you know, we can change the banner up every like month and a half or so with new art. So it will drive people to, hey, let's check this out. Let's check this out, sort of thing. And then maybe on the banner, you know, need more art team, looking for artists for this project, blah, 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 blah. And it will always be in people's faces, and we changed it up with art. Maybe we'll get our people that we need. All right, Steve, you got any thoughts on that? Can you make a banner? Can you approve it, get it approved by Buzz? Why, yes, Derek, I sure can. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be working with you. Thank you for feeding me some roasted peanuts every now and then. Well, that's no problem, Steve.
Shit, sorry I was muted. Yeah, I can do a banner, no problem. What do we want to link it to?
Options, gentlemen.
What are we going to link it to?
All our artwork.
Which will be where?
Well, what I was thinking is the artwork that we show up to people is anything in the global folder, which next week will be a city, and we will build it up over time.
But how do you want to go about giving you the art for the art folder? Because right now, I mean, we got a lot of art in the Dropbox. I have tons of art I've not put in the Dropbox instead of other artists.
Well, there's a global folder in the Dropbox at the moment, and once we have a piece of concept art that we say, yep, that is done, that's going into the official concept art folder, we then move it into the global concept art folder.
Why don't we limit it to like illustrations, like some of the more, or even like either like pick like an illustration, like a line art something, and then like something rough, or just like 3 illustrations or something that would show off like everything we're doing, so people can be like, oh, hey, I can do that, or I'd like to do that, instead of just like the best of like everything. Pick like the best of each category.
I like that idea, because what really irritates the crap out of me is a lot of the things I've been doing for the daily drops, the crow's nest, you see me mess up, and it's not like I record 10 hours and then speed it up by 5, so all you see me, you think I work like a god, and you don't see how I mess up. I don't want someone to come in here and going, oh, there's no way I can do that, because that's just so good. Their concept art is so slick. I want some of that slick stuff. I'd love to have a lot of slick stuff. I really want to reach out to the masses, so I agree with you on that point.
We could even just have leads vote on the banner at some point during the week.
Okay.
No, we don't want to include the comic pages in that, right? Because we want to put
No, that's
those
totally
out.
separate. Nelson,
Yeah.
I know you got all the pages. Do you have a plan of attack yet?
Not quite, no. For the comic book, you mean?
But yes. How to showcase it.
Still working on it.
Okay. Do you have an ETA on when you might have that problem solved?
Soon.
Like, as soon as the next 5 minutes, or as soon as the next 2 days?
Frickin' soon, Derek, all right?
Wow.
Derek just wants to know if it's on like a geologic time scale or on like a human time scale.
No, it's on a human time scale.
Okay. Works for me. All right, so that will be our plan of attack. And we're already like almost a half hour over, so we'll call it here. But I'm glad we're moving forward. Development team, I'm glad you're still here. I really think it's very poignant that you guys, you're part of the art team too, and it'll help drive us to get what needs to be done. So thank you for hanging around still. Any last thoughts? That can be summed up in 5 words.
See, now you're making it difficult. I'm tired, I'm going to bed.
Eat what?
That was 6, but there we
That
go.
was 6, but close enough.
Who's counting? All right, Mr. 50 Shades Nelson, take us out, and we will meet next week. Make sure you guys visit the forums. We have our new rules, we have our new definitions, and let's make this game a reality. Guys, we'll see you next week.